Hi, everyone, and welcome back to our Golden 20s. My name is Teagan, and I'm joined with Sadie, and today we are going to talk about making the most of your college/university experience, because we know a lot of people in their 20s, this is the time when you're getting ready to go to school. But before we dive into that, we wanted to kind of go over our goals that we set for the month of August, because it's August 31st. The month is over, and maybe give some life updates. So, Sadie, did you want to maybe go over what your goals for August were and how they came along this month?
Yeah, 100%. So my biggest goal for the whole year, actually, but it turned into a monthly goal for August, was to get a pet. And I know I already mentioned this in a past episode, but if you guys don't know, I finally got a cat, and I am just so happy with her. She's just so sweet. And I've had her now in my apartment for 3 weeks at the time we're recording this. So we're like, situated for the most part. Like, she's still like kind of shy, but when it's just me home, which it is 90% of the time, she like comes out. She likes to, like, she just can't get enough love. She just wants me constantly petting her. She wants to constantly hang out with me. But usually through the day, I mean, it's also been extremely hot in Toronto, and I don't have air conditioning. So she's usually like sprawled out on the floor laying somewhere and like napping most of the day. But besides that, it has been so great. And just, I don't know, I just think of like the whole reason I wanted a cat. Here I go to get like deep and personal, but I wanted a cat just to like really like help teach me like love, and just like somebody here that I can like love and like care for outside of just myself. And this cat literally, like I said, just can't get enough love. So I just like look at her and I'm like, girl, you are literally the cat for me. And like, you are serving the exact purpose of like why I wanted a pet in the first place. But she's also like pushing my limits a little bit. And like, you know how cats are, they're very stubborn and independent and just like push your buttons sometimes. So I'm like, you're also teaching me patience. You are, teaching me to get out of my way. So I'm like, everything is just falling into place, and I am very happy with her. So her name is Cleo. I guess I didn't say that, but big yearly goal actually checked off the list. So I'm feeling accomplished.
That's good.
Yeah, part of my August goals was also like to declutter my apartment, because I just have so much like random junk that I've been wanting to get rid of, but continuously put off. So when I got a cat, my mom, if my mom's listening to this, she's probably like, oh my God, this girl bought so much shit for her cat, because I did. I literally picked out this cat, and then I was like, hey mom, let's go to every single store in like the Muskoka area that sells pet stuff. And I just like loaded up the car. So I had so much stuff for my cat, and I was like, okay, now I actually have to go through and declutter my apartment and get rid of all this stuff I've been meaning to get rid of for months. So I've been like on a mission to organize my stuff in my office and my spare room, which is kind of where Cleo has taken over. So I have like things selling on Kijiji and Facebook Marketplace, and I'm just like buying organizing bins, and I am just getting my life together. But it's also kind of that like season for that, like I feel like back to school and like September is like a key like organizing time, and like reestablishing your routine and like your space, changing it up seasonally for fall. So I'm just really leaning into that. And yeah, that's all kind of on the cat front. Yeah. What were some of your August goals, Tag, and how did you make out?
My main goal, I think I mentioned on the podcast, was that I wanted to try and eat a little cleaner, mainly by cutting carbs, just because that's something that I do sometimes that makes me feel better. And so I've done a full month with very little carbs, and it's been great. I like fit into all of my before pandemic clothes, and I've had people mention to me that I've like look better, look healthier. So that's been a big success. So now I'm going to start bringing carbs back into my diet. Like, I'm not the type of person who likes to just be on a strict diet like all the time because it's just, I like to switch up everything I do in my life. So it's something that I'm probably going to change, maybe work towards exercising more in the month of September. And then obviously if you exercise more, you need to eat a lot more, something like that. But I'm pretty happy with my goal. And then another thing I wanted to bring up was that this was actually a goal I had set for myself for the month of September. And then because of random stuff out of my control, my timeline got moved up. But I wanted in September to buy a car. And my husband and I, we had like been obviously talking and planning about this for a while. And I've had the money set aside since, I want to say January. But he was unemployed. So we were kind of like, okay, when both of us get a job, we're going to buy a car finally.
Very responsible.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But then our friend lent us her car for a couple of months and she was supposed to be away until September, hence that date. But then she ended up coming home early. So we were like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's get a car. And so it was literally like, I think a week of searching and we've bought a car. It's being dropped off at our house tonight. And it's just a cute little baby Mazda that's worth literally nothing. Like our insurance, it's like no collision coverage, no nothing. So we're like, if we crash this car, like it's cheaper to buy a new car than to fix anything. So it's just going to be perfect because we both work from home. It's just for like running to the mall or running to get a last minute grocery thing. But yeah, so that goal was achieved early.
Yeah, congrats. That's like such a adulting thing. Like, look at us, getting pets, buying cars. Who are we?
That's what your 20s are all about.
Yeah, I guess so. That's so exciting. I love that.
My first car that I've bought.
Yeah. That's so good. And like, honestly, it is a game changer. Like, that's next on my list is to get my driver's license because I'm like, yeah, sure, I'm 25 and I have my own pet, but I don't know how to drive. So in some ways, I'm still like 16 years old, but it is definitely like a game changer. Like my friends who have cars are like, I don't know how I ever lived without a car. Like, you know, like it's just so much more, I guess, convenient in some ways. I will argue in other ways it's not more convenient, even though people try to tell me it is, and it is like expensive and whatnot. But it's like so nice to have at your disposal, especially for you where your family lives out of the city, you know, you're close with your family. So it just like makes it much more like easy, I guess, to get around for sure.
Yeah. Well, like, and when you're living downtown, like we used to live downtown and like we could walk everywhere. Like I could walk to the mall, I could walk to Winners, I could walk to the grocery store. Whereas now the place that we live is a little bit further out of downtown and it's like, I don't have that option. So it's either it takes me an hour and a half to get places or I have to Uber and then that cost adds up. Like it's, I think depending on your living situation can be logical. But like if you're living downtown, like New York City or wherever, you probably don't need a car. In fact, a car is probably a huge pain in the butt. But
yeah. 100%. Amazing. Yeah, I love that. I feel like this was a good way to like start like, well, I guess wrap up a month, like wrapping up August, and then feel like now that we've achieved some goals and hopefully you as a listener are also working on your goals, plugging away like day by day, and then we can enter into a new month feeling accomplished and ready to set out on some new goals, I guess. Yeah. On top of that, I thought it would be fun to update you guys that Teagan and I have been planning Teagan's bachelorette party. So Tag, you can definitely give us like a wedding update if you have one, but the bachelorette is like pretty much booked and like set in stone, I'd say. We're planning on going to Nashville beginning of October and it'll be really, really fun. I feel like our RSVPs and like who all is coming is still the only thing like up in the air, but we have our hotels booked, our flights are booked. Today I just got like our decorations in the mail and like everything is falling into place and it just feels so good.
Yeah.
It's been like such a long time coming.
Yeah, I feel like things are I don't know. I definitely felt more hopeful about like the wedding last month. Like COVID, obviously, like the Delta variant's going kind of crazy, but I
Mm-hmm.
know like everyone on my guest list for my wedding and for the bachelorette is fully vaccinated at this point, which makes me feel a little bit better, especially like with traveling. The Canadian government said that we're going to have basically proof of vaccine that will allow you to fly. So I'm feeling hopeful, especially like
Mm-hmm.
in Canada, our vaccine numbers were at, I think, like 75% of the population's fully vaccinated, which is crazy and like very impressive. So I'm hopeful, but we will see. I've got, like all my wedding invites went out the door. I know I talked about that in a past episode, how I still had some to do, but they're all at the
Yeah,
door. I've heard back from about 50% of the people. So feeling
that's good.
good. We will see.
Yeah.
I think like if we have to adjust, we'll adjust, but I'm kind of just going ahead with like we're getting it done and
Yeah.
it'll look like how it looks like and
Yeah.
yeah.
And honestly, you're the queen of adjusting. If you guys
Mm.
haven't heard about Tegan's wedding, we have like a whole podcast episode on that from a few weeks ago. So definitely go give that a listen. We talk all about planning a wedding during a pandemic, which a
Mhm.
lot of people have obviously been sorting through the past like year, 2 years now. But
Mhm.
we're hoping that this year we can have the big celebration you and your husband deserve. And all
Yeah.
these like
Yeah.
little events, like the bachelorette, like we had to put that off from last year, and your bridal
Mhm.
shower, like all of those were smaller things, less people, but included still groups and of course traveling. So we had to
Mhm.
cancel all of those last year, but I'm also feeling hopeful for this year as well.
Yeah. I've seen
Yeah.
people, like, especially for the Bachelorette, I've seen people traveling and it's like everything costs a little bit more and you have to plan a little more, like,
Yeah.
ahead of time. But other than
Yeah.
that, it's, doable. So I'm hoping
Yeah.
that that's still the case in October and we can go and have another, like, fun fall girls' trip.
Yes, October in Nashville. Like I can't think of anything better. Maybe October in New
Yeah.
York, but
Yeah.
but I just love New York. Nashville I think will
Yeah.
be so great. It'll be my first time going and I'm just like so
Hmm.
excited for like live music in general, never mind like live
Yeah.
music in Nashville. So I think it'll be so good. And this is so nerdy, but I feel people are in the same boat where I just love hotels. So like
Mm.
I feel like now every time I travel, I basically stay in an Airbnb just because it's a lot cheaper. But the fact like we have
Hmm.
hotels booked and they're like a hotel right downtown, like walking distance from where we'll be, it's just
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I feel so excited. And also just like party planning. I love planning parties. I
Yeah.
used to have people over a lot and just like I loved like planning food, creating playlists, like whatever it
Hmm.
was. And I haven't been able to do that for like a year and a half. So I'm just like, okay, Tag, let's plan everything. Like you guys actually would
Yeah.
have like cringed because last week Tegan and I got together to plan the Bachelorette and we went for dinner in a public place and I sat down with my notebook, my agenda. I was like, okay, I'm ready to plan. But I just love
Hmm.
it so much. And I feel like we've been really productive ever since that planning session. So it was
Hmm.
useful, but so good. I'm just feeling so hopeful.
Yeah, me too. I'm
Yeah.
sure, like, no matter what happens, we will make something work and
Exactly.
it'll be fun. So,
Yes, 100%. And obviously, on this note, as a listener, like if you're planning on traveling, like definitely look it up. Don't
hmm.
like, I feel like I've made this mistake just being like, oh, this person traveled. It must be easy to travel to the States right now from Canada. But like, make sure you're Googling and like reading
Hmm.
airlines, like websites and stuff, because there are certain like COVID tests you need to take to get into the US and then certain ones you have
Yeah.
to take to get back into Canada. So make sure you look this up, do your own research. Don't just rely on,
Hmm.
things that you hear in podcasts or things that you see on Instagram. Do your own research so that you can travel safely if you are also planning to travel.
Hmm. Definitely.
Well, I think that's it for the life updates.
Hmm.
So we can transition into back to school talk. So this episode is live August 31st, and right after this will be like the Labor Day long weekend, and then everyone should be back to school. If you're not back to school already in August, I know like some schools go back early, but we thought it would be great to do one last back to school episode talking all about our college and university experience. We've been graduated for a few years now, but let's just take a trip down memory lane, reflect on that time in our lives, what we learned, and then we can also share with you guys what we learned. So if you're in school or if you just want to relive your college experience with us, that is totally fine. But we can definitely just share some tips and advice we have on how to make the most out of your college or university experience.
The first thing I would say, which is something I mentioned in previous podcasts, is kind of look on Facebook and those kinds of places for groups and reach out to people before you get to school.
Yeah.
Because literally, like, my first week, my lifeline was the friends that I had made on Facebook.
Mine too.
Yeah, I had a friend that I had met on Facebook, and she came into my room and she was like crying because this was her first time leaving her family, and we like made tea and like just chatted it out, and we're like still friends. Like, I met my husband in the Facebook group, and it's just like these people, because these people are in the exact same situation as you, and everyone's looking out for each other. Like, I remember my first week is one of my friends that I made on Facebook. He was like, "Oh, have you done that assignment that's due tonight?" And I was like, "What assignment? What are you talking about?" And he was like, "Oh, it was put in our online portal." And I was like, "I didn't even know we had an online portal." It's like, I would have failed this assignment if he hadn't been like randomly chatting to me about it. So even though it seems like not even school related, like social related, it can help your school because like it helped me. And I think it makes a big difference in your first year of school.
Totally. And I think that's the biggest thing if it's, starting a new school or starting a new job, is just wanting to connect with people and wanting to fit in and not feeling like you're in this alone. So I think that is the biggest thing. And like, obviously, the more you like kind of talk to people ahead of time, when you just show up, it feels like you already know these people, and like they are like comforting when you're like saying goodbye to your family if it's like your first time living on your own or something like that. So I definitely think that is a really great tip. And I think I mentioned too that in a past episode that I met my roommate through like a roommate portal. And I just wanted to also say that if you have the chance to move out and like if you can live on campus, I like 10 out of 10 recommend you do. And if you have an option to live with a roommate, like it definitely is a gamble if you'll get along with that person or not, and if you'll like actually successfully live together. I feel like since I had a positive experience, I'm saying I would recommend that to everybody. But I know not everyone does have a positive experience or maybe can't afford to live in residence. But I just think it really helps, especially like we're saying, like having people to like lean on and figure things out with. Like my roommate and I figured everything out together. Like I also, as soon as my parents left, I started crying because I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like you're saying, I was that friend that you had tag where I was like, I don't know if I can do this on my own. Like, I've never done this. This is a new school. This is a new city. These are all new people. Like, oh my gosh. So first of all, it's okay if you're homesick and you're scared. And I feel like that feeling, obviously it wasn't like super intense, but I had that feeling for like the first few months of school because it was all just so different. So if you're also feeling nervous, no, that is totally normal. But definitely like lean on your roommates, like be open with them because like you said, they're going through probably the same thing you're going through. And I think that was my favorite part of having a roommate, was just somebody there to have all those firsts with. And, it's kind of like that built-in friend on your first day because both of you probably don't know anybody. So you can go to like events at campus or like events in your residence building together, and it's just kind of like a buddy system.
I loved living on campus as well. Like, I didn't have a roommate, but I didn't want one. And I don't know, this is my theory in my head, which is probably stupid, but it's because I have brothers. So I was like, I just don't want a girl in my space all the time
Okay.
because I don't know how to like interact in that way. So I was like, I need to have like my own space and my own area. I don't know. That's my own theory, but
Yeah.
anyways. And being on campus, I just think is a perfect middle ground between living at home and completely moving out because like for
Yeah.
me personally, I had a meal plan, so I was still in charge of like doing my laundry and keeping my room clean, but I wasn't also then trying to figure out how to grocery shop and make all my meals
Mhm.
while still trying to focus on school. And I
Yeah.
also found it a lot easier to do schoolwork because you're just surrounded by people who are also doing schoolwork. You're super close to the library. You're super close if you want to go meet with your profs. Like I would
Mhm.
always go to my prof's office hours because I'm a huge nerd. And like
Mhm.
if you're living off campus, it becomes like a full ordeal where if
Yeah.
you are living in residence, you can just like go down the hall and chat to them. So
Yeah.
I also recommend that.
Yeah, and since it's such a big ordeal when you do live off campus, you're less likely to actually like engage and you're less likely to actually
Yeah.
like participate and do stuff. And I totally understand like living on campus is a big expense, but there is financial aid. Like if you are an Ontario citizen, then obviously like
Mm.
apply for OSAP and whatnot. Like my family, like my parents did not pay for school. It was all OSAP that paid for my schooling. Obviously, I had to
Mm.
pay a lot of that back, which wasn't so fun once I did graduate, but it was 100% worth it because I feel like I had
Mm.
such a great experience because I lived on campus. You just like
Mhm.
immerse yourself in the culture of the school, you immerse yourself in experiences, and you definitely get to meet new people 100%.
Yeah, I feel like it's just so much like fun and it feels like
Yeah.
less pressure because it's like you have your little room and it's not that hard to take care of and you can go out and
Hmm.
have little like campus adventures with your new friends without the
Yeah.
sake of then figuring out how you're going to get to your house and making sure you have like X, Y, and Z figured out. Not to
Yeah.
mention like you have older students who are there as, you know, to make sure things are going well and that you can
Hmm.
ask for help if you need.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I think like my biggest piece of advice is to participate and to be open to
Mm.
those new experiences. Like I feel like I would cringe at the people who had like a lot of school spirit and I would like kind of cringe at those older students who would just like be, you know, the RAs for years and years. Like I was like, come on guys,
Yeah.
like there must be more to your life than just school. But at the same time, the more you lean into it, the better experience you have. And I
Mm.
think like going to, like we said, those campus events or residence events, like I remember my floor in my residence building would have events in like just for our floor in our lounge on our
Mm.
floor. So I don't know if that's
Right.
like normal, but that was a lot of fun, a really great way to meet, you know, your neighbors even or just like
Mm-hmm.
other people. My school, the floors were like by program kind of. So since my roommate
Okay.
was in aviation, we lived on the aviation floor.
Hmm.
However, basically all my friends in the fashion program all lived on the ninth floor, which was the fashion floor. So it was
Mm.
also like a way to meet like other people in your class. I don't know if that's normal or like I don't know if a lot of schools do that, but I just thought it was like a
Mm.
really great way to meet people, especially like-minded people. I feel that can be overwhelming. It's like finding common ground with total strangers, you know, and not knowing what
Mm-hmm.
you bond over. But how they grouped us, not me, because I was on the aviation floor and I know nothing about airplanes. But for my roommate, you know, it was a great experience because she
Mm-hmm.
just instantly bonded with people over their shared love for aviation. And I bonded with people for having no idea what aviation was all about.
Yeah.
But, you know, like they could tell me about it or whatever. So I think, yeah, just participating in those events. Another fun thing I loved about my college was I feel like it was fairly often they had drag shows in like our
Hmm.
campus, like rec center. I don't know what it was called now, but those drag shows were the best. That was the first time I ever saw Brooklyn Heights. Like she came to my
Mm.
school before like she was, you know, Brooklyn Heights and it was just like so fun and just like such a great way to meet people, but there was
Mm.
obviously other events too. Like they would have like sometimes they'd have like little markets popped up in there, you know, so you could like go around and do like a little bit of shopping or whatever it was. It was just like a good way to get out, and people are always so friendly, and I feel like pretty outgoing at those sorts of things. So even if you yourself aren't outgoing, you're surely bound to have a social interaction of some sort at some sort of event like that.
One other thing is that you should be mindful to be balancing the like fun social part of going to school with like the actual doing schoolwork. I feel like this is like a hole that a lot of people fall into. Like I saw a lot of people on my floor and like a lot of my friends, because it is like full freedom. I remember like my first couple weeks where I'm like, I can just like leave at 4 a.m. and walk around if I wanted to. Like there's no rules that I can just do that. But then it's like you clue in that, okay, maybe I shouldn't do that because then I'll be so tired the next morning that I can't go to class.
Yeah.
So it's definitely hard, but important to keep in mind like why you're actually there and making sure that you are like getting your stuff done on time. And if you're like struggling with classes, like turn it into a social thing. Like I would have like study parties with some of my friends who were in the same classes, or we would all go to like the caf together. My cafeteria had like these big like couches, like the friends couch in the cafe, and we would literally sit on that couch like the friends and friends for hours. And like we would not let anyone else sit on our couch. We would just be like surrounded by coffee and like candies. And we would just do our own schoolwork, but like hanging out with each other and talking. And, you know, like it doesn't have to be like you either have your head down and you're focused on school and that's all you can do, or you're a party animal. Like you kind of have to toe the line and, you know, make friends, have fun, and still get the credits that you are paying money for.
100%. I feel like I struggled with that balance at first. Like when I moved into my residence, I moved in a week early, so I participated in Frosh Week. And in Frosh Week, like I had met a group of girls through the Facebook group, like you were saying, Tag. And on my first day at residence, we all met up, and then one girl had talked to somebody else in the Facebook group and knew of the party that was happening. And all of a sudden I found that I was in with the party girls. And I didn't want to, like, totally nab that in the butt, because I was like, I'm having a lot of fun. Like, this is great. But at the same time, I knew, like, these probably aren't, like, the friends that I'm going to keep forever kind of thing. So it was a lot of, like, enjoying myself. But, of course, Frosh Week just kind of spiraled into the semester as well, and I felt like I became a party girl, and that's how like people saw me kind of thing. This was, again, just for the first semester. It felt like it was all year, but it was really just the first semester. And it was like literally partying like Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, and then just being super hungover Sundays. And then basically Monday, you were planning for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're planning what you're doing Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
And it was just like so much fun, but at the same time, that was my lowest GPA of all of my school years and all my semesters. Like, I did go through kind of a hard time, and I want to put this out there too, that I didn't love my program at first, and I definitely considered dropping out of it because I didn't think it was what I wanted, which we can get into again in a minute, but I wasn't enjoying the classes, so I feel like that's also why my GPA was so much lower. But come second semester of my first year, I remember my roommate and I sitting down and being like, okay, girl, this is not sustainable. Like, we are paying a lot of money to be here. Yeah. And we're not even, like, soaking up the education side of things, you know? And, like, we're not trying our hardest. Like, both her and I were, like, really like studious students, but we weren't putting all of our energy on that, so we weren't getting the grades that we were capable of. So luckily, like, we had each other to be like, okay, like, we need to like grow up a little bit. But I feel even if you're on your own without a roommate, or you don't have that bond with your roommate, there will come a time where you just need to kind of evaluate what you're doing, where you're prioritizing, and like if you're more so prioritizing your social life or your school grades or whatever, and then you need to just make sure that's aligned with what you actually want to take away from your college experience. And remember that you are paying for those courses, and you definitely want to be taking the most out of it. This is not just like we're saying like a free pass to just party all the time, but it is important to have fun too.
Yeah. Well, and I love the point about having, like, if you're struggling, bring this up with your friends because they're probably going through the same thing. Or like, I didn't know how to do like half the stuff I needed to do for my courses. And I was like, asked my friends, this is my same friend. I'm going to give him a shout out. His name is AJ. It's the same friend who was like, girl, that assignment is due tomorrow. They put it on the online portal. He taught me how to copy and paste on my MacBook because I had only ever used PC. And he was like helping me type an essay and was like, I'm sorry, what did you just do? And I was like, I right clicked. And he was like, okay, we need to have a lesson. But it's like, if you are struggling and you're like, this course makes no sense, and you have friends in that course, meet up with them and be like, hey, this doesn't make sense. Want to work on this together? Because if you're confused, I guarantee they are too. Yeah. And then you can work together and help each other achieve better grades. And it's just so much more enjoyable than if you're trying to like fight it out on your own.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the biggest thing is like, it feels like you're the only one going through this, like as it's a huge transitional time, but you're really not. Like you're amongst all the other first year students who are literally experiencing the exact same thing you are. So 100% ask for help and make friends to get through it with.
To show you how to copy and paste. Another thing as far as asking for help is to talk to your professors and your TAs and use their office hours. Like I did this all the time because, as you know, I'm a huge nerd. But like if I was starting an essay, I would go to my prof and be like, these are the sources I want to cite for my essay. What do you think? And they'd be like, okay, go to the library and check out this book, this book, this book, and make your essay more about this. And like when I was in first year, I once got, I want to say like a 68 on an essay, which was a lot lower than my, like the essays I was getting in high school. And I didn't really understand some of the markings I was getting. So I brought it to my prof and I was like, I don't want a higher mark. Could you just tell me the mistakes I made so I don't make them on the next one? And then he was like, I respect that you're coming here. He like knew my name so that if I was having struggles, he would actually be able to help me because he knew I was interested and knew me. And then he did end up raising my grade, which was nice.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. And like, that's exactly what happened to me too, where, like I said, I didn't love my program at first. And I was like, I don't know if this is for me. So I literally seeked out the program coordinator for my program and was like, hey, can we talk about this? Because I really don't feel like this is what I signed up for. And she sat me down and was like, well, what do you want to do? So we kind of walked through it. And she was like, a lot of the courses that would get me to where I wanted to end up were in second and third year. So she kind of explained that to me, and then she just like broke it down into what to expect and like how it will eventually kind of turn into what I was looking for. But she also, similar to your professor, like helped me like kind of cater my projects and whatnot to be what I wanted to take away from it. And she, you know, made me feel confident to talk to my other professors from all my classes and be like, hey, like, is there a different approach I can take to this project? Or, you know, working with them because they want to see me succeed as much as I wanted to succeed. And I wanted this program to work out, right? Actually, I feel like your professors probably want you to succeed more than you want yourself to succeed. Like it's the only instance I've had at least where it's like I have somebody else vouching for me and like rooting for me that isn't just my friends and family, you know what I mean? And I think too, I think I mentioned this in a past episode, is those, at least my professors were still connected to the industry. So my professors became my first professional network. And me showing up, showing that I care, showing that I want to make it work, showing that I want to get better marks or whatever it is, showed them that I have a work ethic, shows them that I have passion and that I actually care about these things. And that translated into my relationship with them in class, and then also translated into, them being my reference for my first full-time job or whatever it was. But it just definitely helped build that network. And I think that's another huge part about college and university is you're meeting friends probably for the first time, like outside of your high school friends and childhood friends. So it is definitely like a big social like revolution for you, but it is also the start of your professional career. And you want to make sure, even if you're drinking Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, Monday morning, or Friday morning, whatever, you're showing up to all your classes and you're there to get the most out of it, and you're impressing your teachers, and you are, being a professional working woman or man or whatever in your classes, because your reputation starts in college and university, and you want to make sure it's a good one.
Don't take 8 a.m. courses if you're not a morning person.
Yeah.
I learned that the hard way.
Yeah. I had an 8 a.m. visual merchandising course on Fridays my first semester, and I showed up to it probably hungover every single week.
Yeah.
But I always showed up. And this was before I drank coffee. So I would show up with my peppermint tea, which, by the way, is literally my cure for everything. And every single week, my professor commented on it. And he was also a visual merchandiser at Harrods in London, at Saks in the Bay, downtown Toronto. He was a big guy and a big name. And I made sure that I showed up. I looked good as I could anyway. And I was attentive in his class. I sat in the front row regardless of how hungover I was. And, I feel like he probably knew I was hungover and drinking this peppermint tea because of that. But we had a good relationship. Because I was always there. And that is the biggest thing. And actually, just while I'm talking about this guy, later in my career, I started working on a lot of photo shoots. And he was a prop stylist that I would end up working with on my photo shoot once I started working full time. So it just really goes to show, regardless of the industry, your reputation matters, and it is a small world. So people that you meet in school will definitely come up later down the line. So you don't want to burn any bridges.
Yeah.
This is like the ultimate pep talk, but I also feel like I'm like cold hard facts. This is the truth. Don't screw this up. It's supposed to be more inspirational than me yelling at people, but
still good.
Oh my goodness. So funny. And I think too, like, finding mentors is a big thing. So I think we've talked about our professors as mentors and helping us figure things out, or those older students in your residence as mentors, if it's your RAs or whatever. But I think a lot of schools also have mentorship programs or buddy programs where they'll match you up with an older student in your program or another student just in the school to show you around. So if you're, starting and you're not going to live on a residence or something, or you don't feel comfortable chatting with your professors, maybe chatting with another student through a mentorship program is a good option for you. So definitely check that out too. And one other thing actually on the whole, like, this is the start of your professional career. I also think on top of your courses and everything you're learning in school, college and university is such a great time to start getting part-time jobs or internships in this field you want to work in. So in my case, I was connected to some opportunities through my professors or just through, like a school bulletin board. But this is how I got a lot of like real world experience in quotes. And I found when I graduated, like, it kind of gave me a leg up in my first full-time job interviews because I had actual work experience to talk about, not just, I learned this in school. It's like I took what I learned in school and I applied it in this internship. So it also just shows that you have like a work ethic and you know how to actually work in a job versus just taking the courses in school. So definitely take advantage of that, regardless if like a placement or internship hours are part of your program. I think it's something everybody should do, and regardless of the industry as well.
Yeah, like even in like I'm in film and there was not a huge film industry in Niagara where my school was.
Right.
I think it's
Yeah.
growing now, but at the time there wasn't much, especially for someone with no experience.
Mm-hmm.
And but like our school would have like film festivals where you'd have to be a student and then it was like free to enter and you could win a prize. And I would enter literally every single film festival. And then when I got
Mm-hmm.
my first job, that was what was on my portfolio, was the films that
Yeah.
I had made for that. And it's like if I hadn't gone out for these film festivals or didn't make these friends who wanted to help me with my films, I wouldn't have then gotten my first job in the
Mm-hmm.
industry. And so it's like
Exactly.
even like little stuff that's silly or for fun can, if
Mm-hmm.
it's related to your job, can be a huge help.
Yeah. And I think too, even just like volunteer experiences, like you could
Hmm.
have even volunteered just to work at the film festival, or my school would have fashion shows or
Yeah.
something. Or Toronto Fashion Week was still alive and well at that time. So it was like I could volunteer and it was, just related experience to add to your resume or to put in your
Yeah.
portfolio. And it is also a great way to meet people in that industry when, like you said, you're just starting out and you don't know anybody and you don't have experience yet.
Yeah,
It's kind of one of those
definitely.
things, like everybody always says, how am I supposed to get my first time job, or sorry, first full time job without any experience? Like,
Hmm.
no, hold on, I said that wrong. But like, basically, every job wants you to have all this experience behind you, even if it's your first
Yeah.
job. And that doesn't
Yeah.
seem fair. And it definitely isn't fair. But knowing that is like very common, then find ways to get that experience before you're actually looking for a job, and find ways to beef up your resume so when you do
Hmm.
graduate, you have a lot kind of behind you to talk about in interviews and whatnot.
Yeah. Even if, like, say you're doing a project that's related to what you want to do, like, put your energy and effort into it so that that project could be a portfolio piece.
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
because you're paying for your professor's critiques on it. Like, you could
Yeah.
be taking the time to do really good work that can help you in the long term also.
Yeah, 100%. I think my last piece of advice, and we've already talked about this, but really it's just to be open minded and to say yes to new experiences. Like college, university, it is all a transitional time. It is a time
Hmm.
of a lot of firsts and you kind of discovering who you are or creating who you want to be, and a fresh, clean slate in a way. So it's definitely what you put in is what you get out kind of thing. So if you
Yeah.
want it to be a great experience, then go out of your way to try and make it a great experience. And for me,
Yeah.
that was extremely scary, like we said. And I definitely was like homesick at first and like very
Yeah.
scared. But a little mantra I've said to myself for years is I choose to be brave, not to have fear. And as soon as I say that, it's just brings awareness to why don't I want to do this, or why am I not doing this? And often, if it's
Right.
just because I'm scared, that's not a good enough reason. If my gut is telling me,
Hmm.
no, like, don't go to that party, it's not safe or something, like,
Yeah.
obviously
Yeah.
listen to it. And that's like a different scenario. But if it's just because it's outside of my comfort zone, I love having that little gut check and be like, girl, you can do this. Like, this is what life is all about, is to experience new things, to meet new
Hmm.
people, to try new things. So get out there and be brave and just soak it all up. So that is my biggest piece of advice for you guys, and take pictures and journal about it. Like, I
Hmm.
love looking back on all those experiences I had in college. Like, I feel like every couple months I just like look through my old photos and whatnot and just like relive
Hmm.
some of those moments. And like, obviously, not all of them were great. And clearly, I don't remember all of them since I used to party so much in my first semester. But it was just like such a fun time that I love to look back on it and just reflect on how
Hmm.
much I've changed and how much I've grown as a person. I like to look back on where it all started to get me to where I am now. So I
Hmm.
highly, highly recommend like taking pictures and journaling about your experience, because I think you too will love to look back on that someday. And obviously we know that we have a wide range of age people listening to this. That was so poorly said. Wide age range of people listening. So not everybody is headed back to school. But I feel like this time of year is just like such a good time to start something new or to try and learn something new, to switch your life up in some way. One of my favorite like things to think about is Pinterest always says there's 2 New Years. One is obviously in January, like when it's the actual New Year, but the second New Year is in September, like that back to school season and just like getting back to yourself after like a summer of fun or something like that. So if you're not going back to school, something we thought would be like fun just to mention is there's a lot of like online resources, especially now during COVID times, for you to learn new things, to sharpen your skills, or to pick up new hobbies. So for me, one of those things is more on the lifestyle side than like employment skills and whatnot, but I've always wanted to learn about coffee and wine. So I just recently was like, then girl, you should learn about coffee and wine. Like I thought it would be through like reading books, but one thing I learned through school, and I never knew what to do with this information, was that I learned best through listening. You know, those like learning style quizzes?
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah? Okay. I was like, I don't know what to do with this information. But now I'm like, that means you learn from like YouTube videos and like, you know, listening to somebody talk and podcasts. So for something that I want to learn about, for instance, in this case, coffee and wine, I'm like, sure, give me all the books and yeah, maybe I'll read them, but it's way more likely I'll retain the information if I enroll in like an online course. So I saw online Skillshare is a great resource for a lot of like more technical skills, but also some lifestyle stuff. So they have, I think, both a coffee and wine course that I'm going to enroll in September. And you kind of just do it on your own leisure. They're all like, I think, pre-recorded sessions, but there are some sites where it's just like enrolling in like an online course as if you're still in college. So just wanted to put that in your guys' radar. Like if you miss school or you just want to like, you know, shake things up in some way, like this could be your sign to enroll in a course. And it could be something fun, could be something practical you can add to your resume. But check out Skillshare. Also, another one is Masterclass. Like, I feel everybody and their mother has a Masterclass course out now. So that's a good one as well. They can be expensive, but if you think about it, like, it's a good investment, like investing in yourself, investing in maybe creating new hobbies or adding skills to your resume. Like, I think it's just such a fun thing.
Even like YouTube. Like I taught myself how to use Premiere Pro, the editing software, just as a hobby on YouTube. And now that's like my career that I use every single day. Like, so there's, if you have like the time and the interest in something, there's just like so many resources out there. Even like TikToks. Search up your hobbies on TikToks and you'll get like so many like cool, interesting things.
Yeah. 100%. Like even like basics of investing, like your money. Yeah. Like there's so many like TikToks about that. There's so many YouTube videos about that. So that's something I definitely need to do because like, again, I've been reading books on it and I'm just not retaining the information, but so many free resources as well. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So thank you guys so much for listening. That is where we're going to leave today's episode. We put out a new podcast episode every Tuesday. And in the meantime, you can find us on social media at Our Golden 20s. We are on Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, Facebook. We also drop playlists on Spotify. And we are on Patreon. That is the best way to support the podcast for as little as $2 a month. You get some exclusive content, resources, as well as access to all of our episodes early. That is about it. Wanted to just wish everyone a great first day back to school if you are headed back to school after Labor Day. And if you are not, then I just hope you enjoy your Labor Day weekend. Labor Day is one of my favorite long weekends, so I feel like I will be enjoying it to the fullest. But that is all for today, and we will see you guys next Tuesday.
Bye.